What happens when someone reads a note found in a Bible during a live taping and Dr. Phil immediately says, "Stop the cameras"? The note contained just 7 words. 7 words that would freeze an entire studio of 200 people. 7 words that Dr. Phil later said, "Changed how I look at grief forever." The moment that note was read aloud, everything stopped. The cameras, the audience, time itself. It was supposed to be a standard episode about family estrangement. Sarah Mitchell, 43, had come to the Dr. Phil show seeking help reconnecting with her sister after their mother's death 3 years earlier. Standard procedure. Standard format. Standard questions. Nobody expected what was hidden in that Bible. Sarah sat in the guest chair, nervous but composed, holding a small leather Bible that had belonged to her mother. This was hers, Sarah explained to Dr. Phil. "I found it in her nightstand after the funeral. I couldn't bring myself to open it until last week." Dr. Phil leaned forward. "And what made you open it last week?" Sarah's hands trembled. "Because my sister won't speak to me. She blames me for not being there when Mom died. But I was there. I was there every single day for 2 years while Mom fought cancer. My sister, she visited twice. But Sarah didn't know what her mother had hidden inside that Bible. None of them did." The audience murmured sympathetically. This was familiar territory: sibling conflict, caregiver burden, unresolved grief. Dr. Phil began his usual line of questioning about family dynamics, about communication patterns, about what Sarah truly wanted from this appearance. "I want my sister to know the truth," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "I want her to understand that I loved Mom. That I did everything I could. And you brought your mother's Bible because—" Dr. Phil prompted. Sarah opened the worn leather cover. "Because there's something inside. A note. I found it tucked in the Book of Psalms. It's in my mother's handwriting, dated 2 days before she died." The studio went quiet. Even the production crew stopped moving. Dr. Phil's expression shifted. 20 years of hosting had given him an instinct for when something real was about to surface. "Have you read it?" "No." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "I was too afraid. I brought it here because I needed someone with me when I read it. I needed witnesses." What Sarah was about to discover would shatter everything she believed about her mother's final days. Dr. Phil stood up slowly, walked to Sarah's chair, and knelt beside her, something he rarely does on camera. "Sarah, before you read that note, I need you to understand something. Whatever your mother wrote, she wrote it in a moment of profound clarity. Dying people don't waste words. Are you ready?" Sarah nodded, tears already streaming down her face. Her hands shook as she unfolded the small piece of paper that had been pressed between the pages of Psalm 23 for 3 years. She began to read aloud, her voice cracking. "Sarah knows. Sarah has always known." That's when everything changed. Dr. Phil immediately raised his hand to the control room. "Stop the tape." The cameras kept rolling, but the audience collectively inhaled. Sarah's face had gone completely white. She stared at the note, reading it over and over, her mouth moving but no sound coming out. "What does that mean?" Dr. Phil asked gently. "Sarah, what did your mother mean?" Sarah couldn't speak. She just shook her head, tears pouring down her face, her entire body beginning to shake. Dr. Phil looked up at the control booth and made a decision that would break every protocol. "Clear the stage. Audience, I need everyone to remain seated, but I need my production team to step back." "Sarah, look at me." 200 people sat in absolute silence as Dr. Phil made the choice to abandon the show format entirely. He turned to his producer, standing just off camera. "Bring her sister. I don't care if she's in the green room or watching at home or in another state. Find her. Now." Then he turned back to Sarah, who was now sobbing uncontrollably, still clutching the Bible and the note. "Sarah, I need you to tell me what your mother meant. What did you know? What have you always known?" Through her tears, Sarah finally spoke. My sister wasn't visiting because she was angry at me. She wasn't visiting because she couldn't face what was happening. She has the same cancer. Stage 3. She was diagnosed 6 months before Mom died. The collective gasp from the audience was audible even though they'd been asked to remain silent. Nobody in that studio, or watching the taping, was prepared for what came next. My mother knew, Sarah continued, her voice breaking with every word. Mom knew my sister was sick. My sister had told her but made her promise not to tell me because she didn't want me to have to take care of another dying family member. She wanted me to focus on Mom. Dr. Phil closed his eyes briefly. In 20 years of television, this was different. So your mother was protecting both of you. She was dying while knowing her other daughter was dying too, and she couldn't tell anyone. Sarah's voice rose to almost a scream. She died holding that secret. She died knowing I would spend years hating my sister for not being there, not knowing my sister was fighting for her own life. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Dr. Phil stood up, walked to the edge of the stage, and spoke directly to the camera with an intensity the audience had never seen. This is why I do this show. This is why these conversations matter. Because somewhere, right now, someone is holding on to a secret that's destroying their family. Someone is suffering alone because they think they're protecting the people they love. He turned back to Sarah. Your mother's note, Sarah knows. Sarah has always known. What do you think she meant? Sarah looked down at the Bible, at the note, at the worn pages of Psalm 23. She meant I knew how to love. She meant I knew how to sacrifice. She meant I would understand, eventually, why my sister stayed away. Because I would have done the same thing. I would have protected her too. The silence in the studio was profound. Not the silence of discomfort, but the silence of collective recognition, that moment when an entire room of people realizes they're witnessing something sacred. Dr. Phil made another unprecedented decision. He walked off the stage completely, approached his lead producer, and had a whispered conversation. Then he returned to Sarah. Sarah, your sister is here. She's been here the entire time. She's in the green room. She came today because she's ready to tell you the truth. She doesn't know what you just read. She doesn't know that you know. Are you ready to see her? Sarah's face transformed from grief to something else, hope mixed with terror. She's here? She came? She's been here for 45 minutes, watching on the monitor backstage. She's been crying since you started talking. She wants to come out. But Sarah, Dr. Phil's voice became incredibly gentle. She's very sick. She's in active treatment. I need you to be ready for what you're going to see. Sarah stood up, still clutching the Bible. Bring her out. Please. Bring her out. What happened next is something no one in the room, or watching at home, saw coming. The side door of the stage opened. Sarah's sister, Rebecca, appeared. She was thin, devastatingly thin, wearing a scarf that couldn't quite hide the effects of chemotherapy. She was in a wheelchair, pushed by a production assistant. The audience gasped. Several people were openly crying. But Sarah didn't see any of that. She saw her sister. Her sister who she hadn't spoken to in 3 years. Her sister who she thought had abandoned their mother. Her sister who was dying and had carried that secret alone. Sarah ran across the stage, actually ran, and dropped to her knees in front of the wheelchair. She pressed her mother's Bible into Rebecca's hands and whispered something that the microphones barely caught. Mom told me. She told me everything. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't know. Rebecca took the Bible with shaking hands, opened it to the note, and read it. Then she looked at Sarah with an expression that transcended words. Grief and relief and love all mixed together. I couldn't tell you, Rebecca sobbed. You'd already given up 2 years of your life for Mom. I couldn't ask you to do it again for me. I couldn't. Dr. Phil had to turn away from the camera for a moment. The entire crew was crying. The audience was crying. Even the hardened cameramen had tears streaming down their faces. "This," Dr. Phil said, his voice thick with emotion, "this is why secrets destroy families. Not because the secrets are shameful, but because love makes us believe we need to carry everything alone. Your mother knew. She knew Rebecca was sick. She knew Sarah would blame Rebecca. And she left that note as a bridge between you." He walked back to the two sisters, who were now holding each other, both crying, both clutching their mother's Bible between them. "Your mother's last gift to you both wasn't just that note. It was bringing you to this moment. To this truth. Dr. Phil turned to Rebecca. "How long do your doctors give you?" Rebecca's voice was barely audible. They said I should have died already. But I couldn't die until I made peace with Sarah. I couldn't leave her the way Mom did, with questions and guilt." The power of that moment, a sister fighting to stay alive just to reconcile, was overwhelming. Dr. Phil made another decision that broke protocol. "Audience, I want you to know something. We're going to end the taping here. What happens next is between these sisters. But before we do, I want to tell you about something we're going to do." He looked directly at the camera with absolute conviction. "We're going to cover Rebecca's medical expenses. All of them. Every treatment, every medication, every appointment. And we're going to provide Sarah with the support she needs to care for her sister. Because that's what their mother would have wanted. That's what love looks like." The audience erupted in applause. Not polite television applause, but real, thunderous, standing ovation applause that lasted nearly 3 minutes. Dr. Phil knelt down between the two sisters. "Your mother left you that note knowing one day you'd read it together. She trusted that love would bring you to the truth. And she was right. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten." Sarah and Rebecca stayed on that stage for another 20 minutes after the taping ended. The crew left them alone, gave them space, let them have the reunion that had been 3 years in the making. Later, Dr. Phil would tell his team it was one of the most important moments of his career. That Bible, that note, it wasn't just about two sisters. It was about every family that's being destroyed by secrets they think are protecting each other. It was about the things we don't say because we think silence is love. The episode never aired in its original form. Instead, with Sarah and Rebecca's permission, it became a special about family grief, medical secrets, and the things dying people try to protect us from. The Bible itself, with its precious note, was displayed during the special, a reminder that love sometimes speaks loudest in the words we leave behind. 6 months after that taping, Rebecca was still alive and in treatment. Sarah had moved in with her sister. They spent their evenings reading their mother's Bible together, finding other notes, and underlining passages their mother had marked, a treasure map of a dying woman's love for both her daughters. The note that stopped the show. "Sarah knows. Sarah has always known," was framed and hung in Rebecca's hospital room. Doctors and nurses who treated her would often ask about it, and Rebecca would tell them the story of how her mother's final gift had given her a reason to keep fighting. Dr. Phil visits them twice a year. Not for television, not for publicity, but because some moments transcend show business. Some moments remind us why stories matter, why truth matters, why the courage to be vulnerable in front of strangers can save lives. The Bible remains with the sisters, passed between them as they pass through treatment days and recovery days, and the ordinary sacred moments of sisterhood reclaimed. Inside it, pressed against Psalm 23, the note still rests. 7 words that froze a studio, broke a silence, and rebuilt a family. That's the power of truth. That's the power of love. And that's why Dr. Phil McGraw does what he does. Because sometimes, stopping the cameras is more important than perfect television. The moment became a teaching case at grief counseling programs across the country. Therapists showed the clip, the one where Dr. Phil stops everything, where protocol dissolves in the face of human need, to demonstrate what real intervention looks like. He didn't perform for the camera, one therapist explained to her students. He performed for the people in front of him. That's the difference between television and healing. Years later, Sarah would say that her mother had always been a planner. She knew we need help finding our way back to each other. She knew we need a witness. And somehow, she knew that witness would be Dr. Phil. The Bible, the note, the timing. All of it felt orchestrated by a woman who understood her daughters better than they understood themselves. Rebecca's cancer went into remission 2 years after the taping. She credits her sister's presence, the released burden of secrecy, and her mother's posthumous intervention. Mom gave us permission to be honest. That note was her way of saying stop carrying this alone. The Bible still moves between them, a sacred rotation of comfort and memory.